I am Patrick Dwyer, and I am an autistic graduate student here at UC Davis in California. I also do some autism research, and I facilitate a peer support group for autistic students here, and I previously facilitated another support group at my undergraduate institution. And throughout all that time, I have seen a lot of really unfortunately poor transition outcomes in the autistic community. We don't necessarily prepare people well enough for the changes that come with the transition to adulthood and the increased demands that are being placed on them. We have this thing we call the cliff, right? Throughout childhood, throughout the teenage years, there is a support system in place. People are in a relatively familiar environment. They're doing things that they're used to. And then suddenly, just as their environment is changing around them, we whisk away supports. I definitely think that it makes sense to have a staggered transition into adulthood. That's what I did. You know, when I started at university, I stayed in my hometown, attended a local university, was living at home throughout, was able to focus on the academic aspects of school life, and that was much easier for me. And, you know, if there is a local community college, a local university available, then I suggest you do the same. But that may not be possible. You may not have such an institution readily available. And even if there is still a transition. We can't continue to support everything, because the reality is that we do have this social and legal system that is taking away supports, that is expecting more independence, that's expecting more of people. And that is not something that we can completely get rid of. That's a reality we have to deal with. So even if we're trying to build up a ramp at the base of the cliff, support people better in adulthood, that's not going to be enough. We also have to make sure that teenagers are getting ready for the adult world. And I really worry that right now, a lot of autistic teenagers are not. I do not see a lot of autistic teenagers at workshops on transition into adulthood. And that is, I find, very puzzling and very alarming, because we want autistic teenagers to be gathering this information for themselves, to be taking a more leading role in their own lives, and they should be involved. We talk about something called prompt dependence, which is when an autistic person is depending on people around them to tell them what they have to do and when, basically. They are depending on other people to sort of jumpstart them in initiating tasks. And this is problematic, of course, because if people are depending on these prompts, what happens if the prompts are taken away? Are people going to be able to initiate these things themselves? The reality is that we do a lot of things for autistic people that we wouldn't necessarily do for neurotypical people. And sometimes, you know, that's necessary and acceptable, but sometimes, you know, that has autistic people not learning skills that they really could be learning, that are within their ability. And then once they have the supports taken away, as they enter adulthood, then they're going to really struggle. We should be thinking, you know, what are the individual's strengths and weaknesses, and what are their interests, what do they want to do? And then based on all of that, we have some kind of transition goal, right? Like, we know probably that we're going to college. And then with that in mind, we can think about, okay, what sorts of areas of difficulty might arise based on those strengths and weaknesses and that college context. And more specifically, what might we be able to provide some support for, like building up that ramp at the base of the cliff, providing support during adulthood, and what are some skills that we're not going to be able to support very well. And then we want to focus on those ones, right? I think it is absolutely crucial that we have high expectations of the autistic person. I feel like the idea of an autism diagnosis or a disability diagnosis in general can really hurt expectations, can really make people focus on weaknesses and not see strengths, and really start to not expect an individual to reach what might actually be within their potential. Low expectations are kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy that lead to low achievement, because the individual, you know, they're going to pick up on the fact that other people have these low expectations of them. They're not going to be challenged because nobody is expecting them to do well. So high expectations should be reflected in our plans and everything that we're doing. Finally, I think the most crucial things for the individual to have if they're going off to college or university are internal motivation and self-advocacy skills. Internal motivation because, the university is set up where people sort of have to hold themselves to account and have to want to succeed in order to put in the energy and effort to succeed. So people have to be internally motivated. And self-advocacy is just so crucial to success. I sometimes say, somewhat in jest, that the university operates a bit like Professor Dumbledore in Harry Potter says Hogwarts operates. Because Professor Dumbledore says that at Hogwarts, help is given to people who ask for it. We're not necessarily giving help to people who deserve it at university. We're not necessarily giving help to people who need it at college. At college, we give help to people who seek it out. So people who have those self-advocacy skills, who know when they need a bit of support, who have that self-knowledge, and then the confidence to go and seek that out. Those are people who are going to do well. And I'm not even just talking here about formal disability supports. I'm talking about informal things as well. Office hours. Neurotypical people can be good self-advocates as well. So those self-advocacy skills, that internal motivation, those, I think, are really the most important things that we must have in place as we're thinking about going into the college environment. Thank you for watching. I hope it's been useful to you and thought-provoking. I am very interested in your comments and feedback, so please do post any thoughts you have, any questions. If you have other things that I haven't considered here, or a different perspective, feel free to post that as well. We want to hear from you.